Welcome to Ross Perspective. In this video, I talk to YouTuber, presenter, and horror connoisseur Ash Millman, known from her time at What Culture and her current role presenting at PlayStation Access. How did you get into the entertainment industry?
So I basically started off, I started off doing modeling. I think would probably be the first kind of thing that I did. So I worked as a model for a little while. I did like freelance and some agency represented stuff. But like academically, I was always interested in film and was really super passionate about the film industry and horror movies and all that sort of thing. So I ended up pursuing that at university, doing a film and English degree. And I got into journalism from that kind of side of it. So I've always been interested in film kind of from again, the academic educational perspective, and then writing about it, working as like a deputy editor for our entertainment magazine, got me all into that side of it, doing interviews with some people, writers, directors, that sort of thing. And it just kind of bubbled into this passion for media and entertainment and all that sort of thing that then kind of coalesced perfectly with my experience on camera to create a portfolio that was applicable to What Culture, which was where I got into doing media as in YouTube and talking more about it explicitly that way. But yeah, so I think it all started off just with a passion for the industry, as it does for everyone. I like films and TV. I like talking about them. And yeah, then that kind of ballooned. Like gaming was always a hobby, and then working for PlayStation Access now, it's definitely like transformed and ballooned out. It's just kind of always been able to have the opportunity to explore my interests as a profession. So it's an incredibly lucky turn of events. But yeah, it kind of all just came together.
Okay. So obviously you just mentioned like you're working at Access now.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard this loads, but what was the game that got you into gaming?
Oh man.
If you could narrow it down.
Oh, that's a big question. I think the game, See, I had a PS2. I think that was like my first console was the PS2, which was my baby. My dad was into gaming, which is what got me into gaming. So like I always watched him play things, and then like on PS2 and PS1, I'd play like Spyro and Crash and all that sort of stuff. But I think the one that kind of like, I was like, oh my God, gaming's so cool, was Oblivion, which it was like, it's open world. I can play as a humanoid anthropomorphic cat. I can go around casting spells, being sneaky. Like it was great. So I think Oblivion definitely was the one that kind of opened my eyes to everything way more than I ever thought I'd be interested in gaming, which sounds so weird to say now because it feels like so long ago and there's been so many games since. And Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorites ever. And then again, all the old PS1 games really, really shaped what I liked doing. Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights was absolutely a classic that got me into it. I loved Scooby-Doo, and being able to play that as a game was, a great calling. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's got that. I think you've spoke about that on the channel. That one like really obscure game that no one's ever played. Like. Yeah. I think mine was like Happy Feet or something on the PS2.
My God, it's literally always the like film spin-off ones or some random person in armor on a dragon. And that one for me was Drakkar, The Ancient's Gates. I loved that one as well. That was definitely one that got the disc worn out.
So as most people know, you're obsessed with horror. Why do you think you love horror so much?
Ooh, now I've thought about this before, and I think there's kind of like a twofold reason to it. It's definitely because like my parents and family are like into horror movies, and I think that obviously you always kind of take on the interests of your family and your parents when you're growing up before you discover who you are as a person. So I think I was always like pushed in that direction from like my mom and dad, but I've always been like morbidly fascinated by horrible, dark things, and I'm quite an anxious person, like normally. And I think I've kind of tried to explore this before, it being like the worst case scenario is always played out safely in front of me. So being anxious about something kind of pays off when it's in horror, because you're like, oh, I'm worried about this, oh, I'm worried about this. And it's always the worst case scenario. So you're like, yes, I was right. But yeah, I love monsters. I love world building and kind of representation of all of these inner feelings and turmoil and psychology. And I think horror is a really great and like expansive experimental way of looking at all of these aspects of what it is to be human, to make it like it's super, extreme. I think it does really explore the human condition in a way that no other genre does quite as well, perhaps maybe sci-fi. But then the best horror films are often sci-fi horror films, because of that like crossover. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I'm like, oh, I don't really know. I just like monsters. But then kind of when you dig into it, there's so many layers and building parts, and it's just so much fun as well. Everybody's always having fun. Everybody's always messing around and trying something new and being ridiculous. And I think it's just a really wholesome celebration. Considering how dark and awful it is, it's a really wholesome celebration of what media and film and stories can be as well. And kind of taps into, oh my God, I'm going on at this answer, sorry. But it kind of taps into that like inherent, fascination and kind of primal bonding and communication of campfire stories, like when you're all sat around a little fire telling a story and you're all you're all together, you're all a little bit scared, you're kind of seeing who can spook each other, or you're passing on all of these tales through oral tradition that kind of harks back to the old caveman brain. I think it just all links in so nicely, like folklore and all that sort of thing. I could go on forever about horror movies and all and horror in general and how interesting it is. But yeah, I just think it's so fascinating. There's so many different facets to it.
Obviously you stream a lot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to PlayStation Access. I am Ash, joined by the ethereal voice of Rosie.
I am the voice of Rosie.
Oh,
I don't know why I did.
So ethereal.
What do you do when you're having a tough day or a tough time, and you're really not feeling it? How do you kind of cope with that? Because obviously you're live.
I think, first of all, I'd like to emphasize, like, I have an incredible support network at PlayStation Access. It's just such a compassionate, caring space. And I say that because I haven't really streamed as much before as well. So being in this position where I'm doing a lot more streaming, that obviously that conversation's been had about, like, if you're not feeling it, this, that, and the other. So it's such a compassionate, caring space that I feel like I have friends in. If I am having like a bad day or a bad mental health day or anything like that, it depends on the severity, you know what I mean? Like if I'm just feeling a bit off and you've got a stream, you're like, oh man, like I'm not feeling on today, what can I do? The guys are all there and just like, we just bounce off each other, we just have a little chat, get into it, have a bit of fun. Sometimes they're lower energy, like not every stream is frantic and screaming. Sometimes it's just lower energy because that happens. If I was feeling like really severely unwell, like I'd have the space to be able to go home and be like, look, I'm going to take a step back, or like people can step in and swap in and out. The whole like being on thing for a stream, and being, like, hey, it's streaming time to entertain. I think it's just, I'm an only child in it. I like crave attention at any point. So as soon as the camera's on, I'm like, oh, it's time, let's stream. Normally I'm quite hard to get very mellow. I just enjoy chatting and gaming, and it's just loads of fun. So it's never ever like a bad day, really. But if it is, there's the space for it to be made better.
Other than streaming, obviously you do a lot of you and Rob actually both do a lot of like writing, like video essays. I'm guessing, because I feel like this happens to everyone, you'll get writer's block at some point. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Oh man, just smacking my face off the computer repeatedly. The thing is, like, you have writer's block, and like, again, bounce off the team, talk to everyone, like explore like what they think about something. Maybe it'll spark an idea. It kind of depends what it is. A lot of the time it's just about toughing it out, because like at the end of the day, it's my job to write, or it's my job to stream, it's my job to present. So kind of getting myself, there's very much like me, Ash, and then there's Ash from Access, or like from What Culture, or from wherever I'm working. It's like a person that you put yourself in for the day.
Hello and welcome. My name is Ash, and I find myself here today burdened with an incredibly serious topic that must be brought to light. We need to talk about bug snacks. We need to talk about the horrific reality disguised by a sickly sweet wrapper, a disturbing chain of events coloured with a pastel palette, a would-be children's tale mutated and transformed into a terrifying reflection of our own worst fears.
So when it gets when it's writing in particular, it's just sometimes you just got to power through, even if it's just a few words at a time. It's just kind of like put them on the paper, and then I can go back and make it better afterwards. But if I can just get like an entry out to a piece, like, you know, a couple of 100 words, then it can snowball and go from there. If I'm just struggling and absolutely totally blocked, I don't know what to write about, I don't know what to say, it's just time to move on to another project and come back to it afterwards. But yeah, you can always do something if you just, like, you know, sit yourself down. There's no going anywhere because it's work. Like, you're just like, right, what can I write about? How can I approach it differently? Maybe I'll go and like read about it for a bit. My favorite thing to do is just go and read some lore about a game that I'm writing about, or like read like a brief of it, or maybe watch a video on it. And then kind of like just think about the game, listen to the soundtrack, you know, just kind of vibe with it, and then see what you want to think about and talk about. It's always about finding a hook that you're interested in, and then kind of spreading it out from there. So as soon as you find the hook, it's just finding the hook that's the hard bit. That's the block, is just like trying to latch on and be like, oh, here are all my words. But once you've got it, it's fine. So yeah.
Does it ever feel slightly more restrictive working at Access, because it's just gaming you're focusing on, so you can't really explore the kind of film and TV area of media, if that makes sense?
No, I get what you're saying. I think I came from like quite a big umbrella company with What Culture, so there was a lot of, like, you know, freedom to explore different types of mediums for horror, especially for like films, TV, games, books as well. But the thing is, that was always my hobby. So like I still watch horror films, I still read horror books, I still do all of that, and I kind of get to take a step back from it and not look at it as much of an analytical point of view, and just enjoy things being silly. And I've always gamed and always really enjoyed gaming, and it's always kind of been a piece of who I was growing up, especially how what me and my dad bonded over. So to be able to kind of dive into that from a more professional point of view and explore that side of the industry, it's just really exciting. It's really exciting. It's ever shifting and changing and growing. And I think horror as a thing itself is always growing and expanding and moving in different ways. Like, it's getting more respected, it's getting more mainstream. Like it's just always getting better. So to be able to be along for it in any aspect is just incredible. I just love my job. I love what I do. I really, really do love what I do. And I really love it with Access, because I'm surrounded by these people who all love it and all are teaching me new things, and like I'm learning and growing with them. And I don't miss talking about, you know, all these various things. I feel like the formats are slightly different. Like What Culture was very list oriented because it's a list website, whereas I kind of work a little bit more editorially with Access. So being able to kind of hone in on singular games rather than collate lots of different ones is also really refreshing and a different thing that I get to do.
Yep, that's me. I bet you're wondering how I got myself into this state, right? Well, I have two words for you: Hollow Knight.
So yeah, they're like, it's like comparing apples and oranges, I think. Like, it's like on the surface, it's like, oh, okay, you don't get to do this, you don't get to do that. But actually I explore things in a much different way. And there's lots of different like aspects of my role that have changed, and how I interact with my job, which is, you know, it kind of changes the whole format of it in that way as well. I feel like I'm like just bumbling words, but
no, I get what you're saying.
It's like, it's so different that it doesn't even cross my mind that it is that different. Because we stream a lot as well, I do get to talk about films and TV and loads of other stuff, because we can talk about them. I'm surrounded by people who are like journalists as well, or have like grown up in the games industry, like got their careers through the games industry and working with media outlets. And they all think very like, you know, watching a film's like a sacred experience, like they're going out and doing these things at Access as well. So I do absolutely get my chatting about films, having all that sort of thing on streams. And in like some of my more essay-ish videos, I definitely have the freedom to reference other pieces of media. So like the Bug Snacks video, I think I went through, which was like me arguing that Bug Snacks was a horror game.
Yeah.
It's a horror game. It's a horror.
I think I went through and named like a good 13-ish horror movies that it kind of reminded me of, and had like the freedom to be able to explore the references in that way as well. And I've definitely done it with other stuff, like tying all the threads together to a game. So it's not quite, it's only gaming, it's kind of influences and representation as well.
So obviously you're working a lot with games. There's that kind of expression like taking work home. Do you ever feel like that, where sometimes you'll need a break from games because it feels like you're kind of taking your work home?
I sometimes, if I've had like a day of capturing a game, like if I've had like 8 hours sat in front of my PlayStation, like, right, it's time. I'll come home and be like, right, I need to go and like socialize or go and do something for a bit to kind of break it up. But if it's something you're really, really into and enjoying, it's just like, right, let's make it 16 hours. It's time. Like I'm playing it. I think gaming is one of those amazing, fortunate, like professions, industries that like, it's just fun. It's designed on fun. It's an entertainment industry. So taking work home is also what I do for fun. So like my job, like my work at work is fun. And then my fun at home is work. So it's like the line's blurred, which is I guess a little strange, but I just never get really that bored of like horror in particular, like horror movies. When I was at What Culture, just watching films all the time. I'd watch 3 in an evening after work sometimes, just back to back, and be like, oh, I can write about this. Like, because I like thinking about all the different things that they do. I think it's just like analytical brain. When it comes to these sort of things, because that's just like how I've been trained to look at them. Which sounds, I did an A level, like, you know what I mean? Like anyone who's done an A level or GCSE or whatever, or watched a film and enjoyed it, like has that sort of brain for it, but I just enjoy it. So like being able to sit at home, play something for fun, great. And then being able to find things that I can then take to work and be like, oh my God, I found this is amazing. I love that. Like I love finding something I can be like, wow, I want to go and talk about this in like a Tuesday checklist. Oh, I want to write a feature about this. Oh, this is giving me an idea for a Friday feature. Like I like that. I like being able to do that. Whereas if I came home was like, no, gaming is not for me, it might be a bit more difficult to
yeah, that's true,
to do my job.
Yeah. So this question is a bit like, I don't know if ambiguous is the right word. Why do you think you play games? Because I feel like everyone has a different approach with it. Like some people might play it for escapism or just for fun, or to play with friends. Do you think you have a reason for playing games?
I think it's kind of that like previous obsession with world building. I love going into another world. I guess it's escapism, just being able to explore. It's someone's mind. It's like a group of people's mind that you're going into, that they've all got these interpretations and kind of things that they've put together of. And I just think it's so fascinating being able to go in somewhere and look at how it's built and the stories they've made and what they've got for you. It's like, I always loved reading as a child, and like I don't really read now, but that's because you can step out of the book and into a world like with a game. So I think it's definitely like, it's just that storytelling, like the heart of it, like the campfire stories with horror, with games. It's like, oh my God, what journey am I going to be taken on? I think it's definitely that, because I'm very much a single player gamer. I really like co-op games. And I like playing at work with people on our co-op games, but like at home, I very much immerse myself in something, want to see what adventure I can be taken on, how weird it's going to get. It's definitely like storytelling, adventure, narrative kind of draw that pulls me back in.
Yeah. Do you think that's maybe linked to why you might like horror so much? Because I feel like that's quite a kind of world building escapism type genre, because it's very, it's quite extreme stuff that wouldn't happen in reality. So it's like exploring a fantasy. Do you think that's kind of a similar thing with the game?
Yeah, definitely. Like gaming, I always grew up, and again, reading. It was either Stephen King or it was a fantasy book about like elves and swords. Like that was like the two things I did, and that's kind of like what my life has been as well. It's very much like I'm either, you know, in my chainmail armor on the back of a dragon with a massive sword, or like fighting off some eyeball demon from the deep. Because I just think it's just this fantastical, so far from reality, you know, open world of possibilities and fun stuff. But I think for horror, definitely like it's stories that can be told from feelings, and I'm trying to think of the right words to say about this. It's like storytelling built again off like the human condition sort of thing, like, you know, like someone's repressed guilt being the whole part of Silent Hill 2, for example. You know, all these facets of someone's mind coming out in front of them, the evil within, like where you're doing all these monsters and everything. Again, it feels like all these reflections. And I think horror as a medium is super moralistic. It's kind of like, you know, the Bible, where you've got like parables and all that sort of thing, where there's always a push to the middle of it. It's like, you know, be a good person. And with horror, they kind of have those rules and those set points where it's like, you know, don't have sex, don't be an idiot, don't be a teenager, don't have fun and enjoy your youth, because it's all kind of like this puritanical point of view that's then being challenged by what these people do and the monsters that kind of affect them. I'm spiraling. Yes, I like definitely like horror from the world building point of view and the world building aspect, and the complete freedom it offers for something weird, wacky, and out of the norm to be explored.
What is the best or funniest glitch you've ever had in a game?
Oh, a glitch. See, I find them so lovable. Like when it's been like, you know, one that has like the classic bothersome glitches. I just think they're lovable. I can't really think of one that's really like been stuck with me. The one that comes up a lot when a game is struggling is just the T-pose. I just love a T-pose. Like when someone's like stuck like this, like, hello, I have a quest for you. I think that one's probably my favorite, with them just being super rigid, like that would definitely be up there. But yeah, I can't think of any that are super memorable other than that. Obviously just play great games all the time. That's what it is.
Yeah, good taste.